going.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share a writing from Susie Kasem from her book, Rise Up and Salute the Sun. You are not just white, but a rainbow of colors. You are not just black, but golden. You are not just a nationality, but a citizen of the world. You are not just for the right or left, but for what is right over the wrong. You are not just rich or poor, but always wealthy in mind and heart. You are not perfect, but flawed. You are flawed, but you are just. You may just be human, but you are also a magnificent reflection of God.
You are the light of love. I am the light of love. You are the light, I am the light. We are the light of love.
And so this morning we turn our attention within to that still place within us that knows that we are one. We are the light of love that God is. And as we share this time this morning, we know that we are each one of the colors of the rainbow, that each of us is full and complete in and as we are. And when we see that reflected, as we look out into the world at other people, then we know that the healing has begun. And so we set our intention, if you will join me, to see the best, the most beloved in each person we meet and each person whom we become aware of, and that we allow this love of God to permeate all of ourselves and go out from us as light into the world. We accept this now and we state, this is so, and so it is. Amen.
Amen.
You are the light of peace. I am the light of peace. You are the light, I am the light. We are the light of peace.
Thank you, Jackson and Pamela. I'd love to have a copy of that little reading, Pamela. That was wonderful. So this morning, our talk is colorblind or colorful. And I've got to say that some of the things that we've talked about this month have caused stirrings within me for a couple reasons. One is that these themes were created in around this time last year. So in August, July and August of last year. And it's interesting how the themes are going along with what's happening in our country. And that's that's like, geez, did we create that? The community or the group of people that got together to write all these different talk ideas, etc. Did, what were we thinking? We should have focused more on peace and, love and good things, etc. And then I've been doing some study work on this whole idea of seeing the different colors and acknowledging them in people. And I've always been one that said, well, I don't see color. I just see people. The truth is, I rarely even see people. I see energy. So there's something about me that you don't know. Sometimes people have to go, well, what color were their eyes? And I think, they had sparkly energy. But anyway, so today we're going to be talking about this whole idea. And I found this picture yesterday of, it's sort of reverse. This is the way a colorblind person would see the gray tones. And then there is this beautiful picture all around it. And I looked at this and I thought, wow, I just can't even imagine looking at a garden that has, the beauty, the textures, the different heights, etc., but not being able to see variations in color. I can't imagine seeing the whole world through gray tones. And in a way, this is how we see the world. Or I'm going to put it here back to me. This is how I might be seeing the world because of my idea of not seeing color, which means that maybe I don't see other people's differences or the nuances that make them uniquely them. And then I was thinking that, the idea of being colorblind around racism might be considered as inclusive, and it might be considered as noble. But, I know for me, it has positive intentions, just to see people the way they are. And yet, when you're really moving from a place of seeing color blindness, we don't see people for how they really are. Intent doesn't always consider impact. In this case, the impact of not being seen, felt, heard, or distinguished from everyone else, which made me think about living in Vancouver, British Columbia. When I was living, I know I've told you this before, but I'm going to tell you again. When I was living in Vancouver, I loved it because not only is it the city with more green space than any other city in the Western Hemisphere, but it has the different tribes had their different areas. There was, Commercial Avenue, and that surrounding that was the Greek area, and the bottom of Main Street was the Punjabi market area, and the African American people lived across the bridge in Port Coquitlam area, and downtown, right in the middle of Vancouver, was Chinatown. And so I'm sure there were other nationalities as well that had their own little sections, but everybody could come and go in those sections. I mean, mostly, I suppose, for me, it was to go eat, the Greek food or East Indian food, which I just adore, and Chinatown to go and get herbs and massages, things like that. But so everybody sort of flowed around, but everybody had their own spaces. It wasn't like I'm white, so I can't go into that area, etc. So that to me was a wonderful place, a wonderful way of living, because each little tribe had their own culture, their own religions, their own, one of the best Greek festivals I ever went to was in Vancouver at one of the big churches there, with just fabulous music and dancing and food. Food. But these life experiences that we have in our individual cultures makes us different from each other. And that should be celebrated. Just think about it. In this picture, there's only one kind of flower in the garden, but there is a multitude of variations of color in the garden. So just like us, we're one spirit in form, but there's a multitude of the ways we express ourselves. I mean, our iridology patterns are unique and individual. Our fingerprints are unique and individual. Our dental patterns are unique and individual. And yet, we're all one. We're all spirit. So we live in this wonderfully diverse world, with each of us expressing the divine in our own way. And that absolutely should be celebrated. So religious science teaches that each person is a unique expression of God created with sacred worth. Everyone has sacred worth. And living from that awareness has the potential to transform our lives and the world. And Dr. Holmes said, unity and uniformity are not the same thing. No two blades of grass are alike. What does that mean spiritually? We have nothing to disprove and everything to prove that this individualization of spirit in each one of us, rooted in common soil, having the characteristics and the potentialities of its common background, contains what the ancients called the microcosm. We have every reason to suppose that there is, wait just a minute, now my little pictures are in the way here. We have every reason to suppose that there is, back and within and around every individual, the divine representation of themselves as the Son of God forever expanding. So we're all rooted in common soil. And we all have a lot of common characteristics and potentialities. However, and not however, but and, we're all this one thing, this one divine energy that we call God. And I love that he says forever expanding, because that's what we're doing. We're forever expanding. We're not going to be the same. I mean, obviously we were born and we're, you know, I look at myself as a little kid and I think, oh, wow, here I am so many years later, you know, an adult, and I'm continually expanding. You're continually expanding, and spirit is continually expanding within each one of us. So then here's another thing that Dr. Holmes said. Our whole endeavor is to personalize the impersonalness. Whoops. To personalize the impersonal. That is to individualize the creative spirit. I like that idea of personalizing the impersonal, because we know, as we teach in the science mind, that spirit is absolutely impersonal, and yet it comes through each one of us as a personality. It personalizes itself. So here's 3 ideas to think about this morning. One is that color blindness, as I mentioned a little bit before, invalidates people's identities. So race is intimately tied to our identities, and it signifies culture, tradition, language, heritage, genuine sources of pride. I can remember in Vancouver, the people that lived, the Sikhs and the East Indians that lived in the Punjabi market area were so proud of themselves and their traditions and their culture and their religion. And they had the most wonderful parades. They had feast days, lots of wonderful feast days with lots of wonderful food, but they were very proud of who they were. I believe that all cultures should be proud of who they are. So race is a basic ingredient that makes up our being, whether or not we consciously acknowledge its role in our life, just like gender, religion, socioeconomic status, etc. So I just want you to imagine for a minute that you are forced to suppress one of those ingredients that you openly acknowledge and value. For imagine, what if all of a sudden people told us, we were told that we had to let go of our faith. We had to let go of our tradition, our faith tradition. For some of us, our faith is a fundamental part of our lives. I should say some of us, I hope all of us have our faith as a fundamental part of our lives. So such a thought of having to give it up is unfathomable. So color blindness invalidates our identities. The second idea is the garden is a metaphor for diversity, inclusion, and oneness. I just love my garden. Most of you have seen pictures on Facebook, or some of you have, of my rose bushes and my overgrown ginger hedge, or Kahili ginger hedge, and my vegetables, and all the things that I have so much fun with playing in the garden. And so just imagine for a moment a garden that has various vegetation, fruits and vegetables, flowers, foliage, trees. All vegetation needs a conducive environment to flourish. It needs a suitable pH, a healthy level of aeration, and sound nutrients, and water, and sun. And while all plants need these things, different plants require different mixtures of these elements to thrive. Some of my plants I've had to get because of shade. I have so much shade being in the edge of the green belt with 3 stands of redwoods around my house. So I have to figure out what kind of plant will work in shade. And some need more soil. Like when I was so sad when the school next door to me cut down the beautiful redwood tree that was on the corner of our street here. They cut it down because 1, they said it was starting to be diseased, and 2, the roots were breaking up the playground, which was a safety issue for the children. And so while I hated to see it go, my roses have grown like crazy since that tree left, because there's way more sun in my yard now than my front yard. So people are the same way. And nature shows us that the diversified forms and expressions of life each have their own particular needs. Not everybody needs shade or sun or certain kinds of, like my roses need a certain kind of fertilizer, and my vegetables need a different kind of fertilizer, etc. So science admits the diversity, and it seeks to recognize the one great principle, that one life that lies within absolutely everything, whether it's humans or plants or anything. So the diversity lies in the expression of all of our human spheres, just as the same as all of my plants in my garden are expressing diversity. It would be a real drag if every rose I could buy was red, if that was all there was. It would be a real drag if every vegetable I planted was a carrot, because that was all there was. So how wonderful it is that we have the diversity in our gardens and the diversity in our people. We can learn so much from each other. It's just amazing. So the sameness lies in that recognition that in absolutely everything is God, the source and substance of our lives, of all of life, no matter what kind of life it is, whether it's insects or plants or people. So my third one then is we are all connected. Now, I'm going to, what came out for me first was a little bit of negativity, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to do it anyway. So a common theme in our world today is that if somebody doesn't believe or think the way we do, there's something wrong with us, wrong with them rather. Whoops, they can't possibly be connected to us in any way whatsoever. So we assume separation. And we, even with people that disagree with us, we assume separation. We draw lines in the sand rather than hearing out the other person's argument. And we're seeing it right now that people with differing worldviews won't share anything with each other unless they, and if you don't believe the way I do, forget it. I won't have you in my life. That's what I'm seeing out there. So it seems to me that even those people who hang out with people of different political views or religious views or whatever it might be, they get put down because they're doing it. And in some religions out there, if you think about a different religion or you honor somebody because of their religion and it's different, then your religion puts you down for that. And they're accused of watering down your own beliefs even. So it seems that all too often we think we have to be the same, whether it's or colorblind or whatever, so or we can't be together at all. And I was thinking about this, and I remembered this this talk show on television, and I can't remember the guy's name right at the moment that did it, but he's married to oh shoot, now her name just flew out of my head. But the program was wonderful, and I know I've mentioned this before too. They had a cameraman in Russia and a cameraman in his studio, and he asked the women to take up, to put their purses on their lap, and so everybody does, both the Russian women and the American women. And he says, all right, who has Kleenex in their pocketbook? And all these women, reach in and grab a piece of Kleenex, both countries. And who has a wallet? And so people show all their different wallets. And who has a baby's pacifier in their purse? And various women, both Russian and American, take out the baby's pacifier or a baby's rattle or something that has to do with their children. And it made me, when I saw this show, there was a lot of talk about the Cold War. And I realized in watching this show that we really are all connected. We really are all connected. I mean, right now, if I was to have a show like that, I bet still we women would have the same things in our purse. A checkbook, a wallet, money, those are common, but then, lipstick or chapstick or hand lotion or whatever, a lot of us carry the same things. But when I remembered that, I started thinking about what if people with differing worldviews were to sit down and have a glass of wine together, or a meal, or a cup of coffee or tea, and allow themselves to talk about their differences in whether it's religion or politics or philosophy. And if they gave themselves permission to share what they believed, knowing they weren't going to be attacked for it, I think we would find out that we're a lot more the same than we are different. We're all connected. We would find something in us somehow that we would go, oh yeah, I believe that too, or that's the way I think. Just like those ladies found same things in their purses. We're all connected. So for me, it seems to me that if we really decide that we want to begin to look at the world with all of the colors that it has, if we're really interested in embodying oneness, we need to be with people that are different from us in order to experience a more loving, unified relationship with the divine. I can't cross anyone out of my experience without denying some aspect of God. And so to me, thinking of God as love, love wants to expand through us. Love wants us to widen our circle of inclusion. Love wants us to remember that we're all one family. We're absolutely all one family. And so here's my invitation for you this week. I'm asking you not to be colorblind, but to be color brave. And to remember that the nature of God is one of great diversity. So let's allow ourselves this week to see the colorful, wonderful, and even mystical variances that are uniquely expressed as us and as everyone in our experience, everything in our experience. I think the whole universe is asking us to open up our hearts, asking us to see that regardless of whether we like the behavior or not, that person is still of value in some way. And maybe it's kind of hard to find that value. So maybe the value is, that's God. As if Curtis used to say, this too is God, this too is good, this too is for me. And that's what we can say about the whole experience that we're going through right now. Whether it be the virus, the staying at home, the political situation, the race situation, etc. All the things are coming up for us right in our face so that we can heal them. And each one of us has to do it internally. We have to start with ourselves and then let that expand out into our worlds. So Susan wrote the most perfect affirmation for today, and then we are going to go into a spiritual mind treatment. So say this with me. Today I stand in awe of the diversity in creation. No matter our color or culture, we all have the same needs and wants, the same
thoughts desire.
Today I
see the highest and best taking place in all people in all
creation. And so let's go into prayer. How grateful I am to acknowledge that there is only one life. That life is God's life. And that life is the life I'm living. That life is the life we are all living right here and right now. And so I choose from this moment to see as God sees, which is to see all the colors, all the individualities, all the uniqueness of absolutely everything and everyone. I choose to let go of being colorblind. And I know that as I do this, as I allow my consciousness to expand, to include everyone and everything, the whole universe rushes in to support me in that. It supports each of us in our own unique ways. And so I celebrate that. I know that as we go out into our own gardens today, or whenever it might be, or we go walking and see other people's gardens, we see all the uniqueness of absolutely everything. Whether we are interacting with our family members or our friends or our pets, we see the uniqueness that is God expressing as everyone and everything. And we allow ourselves to move into our heart space and feel the love that the universe has, not only for us, but for everything. It loved us so much that it became us to experience life as us. It loved nature so much that it became nature and all the varieties of nature to experience nature. So I declare for each one of us that we are ready and willing to step out and see absolutely everything as divine. Divine love, the energy of divine love in action. And we know that as we do this for ourselves, we do it for all of humanity. We up-level the consciousness. And so I declare right now that as we look out at our country, we see love spreading over the land, everywhere. Regardless of environment or politics or anything, it's the energy of love is moving forward, and the energy of love is the greatest healing agent in the universe. So from this point on, I know that we see with a sense of eager expectancy of all the good that is to see. No longer do we step forward in fear. If it's all God, there's nothing to be afraid of. And so I'm so grateful for this teaching, for our community, for our willingness individually to do the work that we must do on our own selves, to celebrate the work that everyone else is doing, to know love heals, and that is good. I release these words into divine law, knowing that they are so now, and that we see evidence of it everywhere, that this morning transformed us in some way, so that we see God in a greater degree than we ever have before. With a grateful heart, I release these words, knowing they are so, and so it is.
So it is.
And so it is.